arrived here in Los Angeles in 1981. I was transferred here by Columbia Pictures. I was working for them in New York City, and after the first year, the new head of the studio fired everyone in my department except for 3 people, and I was one of the lucky ones to be sent here, so I've been here since then. Well, my father was an anesthesiologist, and my mother was a nurse, of course, right, a Filipino nurse. And you know, by the way, in the United States, Filipino nurses, there's no one better than that group. As a matter of fact, you can go to the ICU, which is the most important department in the hospital, and they're almost all Filipino nurses. When he went to Boston to go to work at the Boston City Hospital, he brought my mother over and the family, and I was just about 6 years old then. Well, I think the struggles I had were the struggles, I think, of any ambitious executive who wants to go up the ranks. I was, of course, in a rather unorthodox field, which is entertainment, and there weren't really any roadmaps for that non-traditional role, especially for other Asian Americans and especially Filipino Americans, Filipinos. I always get that question. They always ask me, do you think that it was a liability to have been a Filipino American in this country, especially in a business like mine, which is notoriously all white? And this, of course, I got my first job in the mid-'70s, where it was really, the issue of diversity was never quite as popular as it is today. Or political issues that we all have to deal with in any corporation. You know, when you move up that corporate ladder, it's the politics that becomes very, very critical in your professional well-being. You could be really smart, but if there are people who don't like you, they stand in your way, they'll get rid of you, or they'll try to get rid of you. If people like you and they support you, they'll help your career move along. And I've actually had both. I've had both. Some people who tried to get rid of me, but I've had mostly people who have really helped me along the way. I could not have done it by myself. Well, after 34 years at Sony Pictures, I realized this boy has got to go, or I'm going to leave my office feet first. And so I had this opportunity, and they talked to me about it, and I said, well, you know, I think during the last, you know, as I enter my dotage, if you will, my old age, I like to do some new things. I left Sony Pictures on the best of terms. I love those people as a corporation. They've been so good to me. They even gave me an ID card just for me that allows me to go on the lot and off the lot, and I still get the things like the Sony discounts, and I get to go to screenings or whatever I want. They don't give that to everyone, but I think after 34 years, and you know, because I didn't cause any problems, they just kind of rewarded me on that level. But I left, and I wanted to do things that I wanted to do. You know, when you work for a large corporation, especially for a Fortune 500 company, I had the best time, but there are also a lot of times when you got to do things that you don't want to do, and you're constantly asking yourself, why do I have to be at this meeting? I have nothing to do with this meeting, but you have to be there because they want you there. So it's things like that. But now, you know, when I left Sony, I told people my goal is to make every day a Saturday. In that, I wake up and I do anything I want to do. And the projects I'm working on now are all of great interest to me. So it's really not work. You know what they say? Well, what was that saying? If you really enjoy what you do, it's not work. That's what it is for me. I think President Aquino has done a wonderful job at putting the Philippines on track to become a very important economic player in Asia. As I understand it, in 2015, the Philippines is now considered the second fastest growing economy in Asia. Kind of that sleeping giant has awakened. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the policies that the president has set in place, but not only economic policies. I mean, I read with great delight the president's actions on corruption. Corruption always is a big weight on the growth of any country. And certainly by the actions he's taken over the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, senators being put away and things of that nature, I won't mention names, has really made an impression on people who might be thinking of doing something that is illegal and a real detriment to the well-being of the country. Additionally, of course, human resources are just that. They're resources of humans, and the Philippines has a lot of people, millions and millions of people, and I know that the president has launched several initiatives to help with health care, right? Help them with education. Education is very important for his policies. What happens is economic growth follows because people spend more time trying to do productive things rather than worrying. Not that they're not worrying. I think there's still a lot to be done. I think it would be naive of me to say otherwise. But I think the president has really put everyone on track and should be very proud of the record that he's going to be leaving behind. Well, I go back almost once a year, but I was there last March. I was there with the Filipino-American actress Tia Carrere. And so I went there, and I also went, I have several friends in the Philippines, and some of them had birthdays, so I was able to celebrate their birthdays with them. So it was kind of social and business, but most of the time it's social. I have so many good friends there. I like to touch base with the friends that I have. And I love going back home because I'm a very proud Filipino American. I've always been proud of being a Filipino. I've always been proud of that country. And I take great consolation in knowing that when I go home, that I have people there whom I care about and who care about me. Well, certainly the skyline is exploding. I mean, all the condominiums and all of the new buildings, that whole Makati, the whole Makati skyline is, and I guess the Fort Bonifacio area. So of course, tourism is a really important sector for the Philippines economy. And so I think all of these have really added to the fascination that foreigners may have to come to the Philippines. Well, my reaction is I think it's the right thing to do. Certainly a lot of the I think Filipinos take great pride in having their leaders come here and be treated so well. It just shows that we are really considered important on the world stage. But I think they all take great pride in knowing that the Philippines is being discussed in the media. Well, I think certainly what you're doing now, trying to get real role models out there to remind them that any Filipino can achieve anything in this country or in the Philippines. I always am fascinated by how people got to where they were, because they certainly weren't born being president, and they weren't born being a senior vice president, and so on. It is a process. But I think there are people who sometimes sit back and they just need a reminder that you can do whatever you want to do. Here are some people who are proof of that. You know, and I think that's one of the best ways to communicate. I would probably tell them what I tell non-Filipinos when I'm talking to people here, to follow that particular vision or that dream that you have. Because if that's really what you want, you're going to get it. It's not going to be easy, but I don't think anything is easy. Anything that's worthwhile getting is always going to be challenging. But I think there are any number of stories out there of people who should never have gotten what they've gotten, and the number of people who told them they couldn't get to that position or to that level of success, that would not be surprising. Just so many people kind of like to, I feel, I wouldn't say destroy dreams, but the other people don't have the vision. You got to surround yourself by good people who support you. But I'm a firm believer that you can get whatever you want. I got whatever I wanted, even though people said I shouldn't be able to get it, and I'm not the only one.